Imagine you're lying on open ground thousands of years before tents, before doors, before anything that could lock danger out. There's no wall between you and the dark, just a small fire, burning low, and the sound of the night around you. Wind moving through grass, something breathing somewhere you can't see. You close your eyes anyway. You have to. Your body needs sleep, whether or not it's safe to take it. Somewhere out there, something is watching. A shape moves closer, low to the ground, silent the way only a predator can be silent. It stops at the edge of where the firelight fades into darkness, close enough that if it wanted to, it could reach you in 3 strides. It stands there, and then it turns and walks away. Not because the fire scared it, not because you woke up and fought it off. It walks away because of a calculation running in its brain that has almost nothing to do with you personally and everything to do with millions of years of instinct telling it, this isn't worth the risk. Tonight, you probably slept behind a locked door, maybe with a phone alarm next to your head, maybe with nothing at all guarding you, and you didn't think about it for 1 second. For most of human history, that single unconscious act, lying down and closing your eyes, was the single most dangerous thing a person did every single day. No weapon in your hand, no awareness of your surroundings, completely blind and completely still for 6 to 8 hours in a world absolutely full of animals capable of killing you in seconds. So the real question isn't why predators sometimes attacked sleeping humans. It's why, given the odds, they almost never did. Here's what most people get backwards about this. We like to imagine our ancestors as the dominant species, walking through the world at the top of the food chain from the very beginning. That's not what the fossil record shows. There's a hominin skull known as the Taung Child, found in South Africa, dated to roughly 2 to 3 million years ago, and the puncture marks on that skull don't match a rock or a fall or another hominin. They match the talons of a large bird of prey. That skull belonged to a child who was killed and carried off by an eagle. For a long stretch of our evolutionary history, we weren't just occasional prey. We were regularly, seriously hunted, and it wasn't just birds. Cave sites across Africa have turned up hominin bones, mixed together with the remains of big cat's leopards, in particular in ways that suggest predation, not coincidence. Some of those bones show puncture patterns that line up almost perfectly with the spacing of large feline canine teeth. So when you picture early humans lying down to sleep in the open or in a cave mouth, you have to picture it honestly. They were sleeping inside the hunting range of animals that had already killed members of their species before and would again, which makes the actual survival numbers strange. If early humans were genuinely easy, defenseless targets every single night, the species should have been hunted into oblivion long before civilization ever got the chance to start. Instead, we're here, billions of us, which means something was working in our favor, even while we were at our most vulnerable, and it wasn't luck repeating itself for a few 100,000 years straight. The first part of the answer has nothing to do with intelligence or tools. It's pure biology, and it starts with how predators actually think about risk. People tend to imagine large carnivores as fearless killing machines, snapping up anything that looks weak. Actual predator behavior research paints a very different picture. In the wild, a serious injury is often a death sentence. There's no vet, no antibiotics, no recovery period where another animal brings you food. A cracked rib, a torn muscle, an infected bite, any of these can turn a healthy apex predator into a starving one within weeks. So every hunt is, underneath the aggression, a cost-benefit calculation running constantly in that animal's brain. Is this prey worth the risk of injury? Is this shape familiar? Does it move like something I know how to kill safely? And a sleeping human, even a defenseless one, doesn't answer those questions the way a real prey animal does. We don't smell right. Our upright frame, even collapsed and horizontal, doesn't match the silhouette that a predator's brain has spent its whole life learning to recognize as food. To an ambush hunter running on pattern recognition built over millions of years, an unfamiliar shape isn't an opportunity, it's a red flag. And in the wild, when something reads as unfamiliar and potentially dangerous, the safer, more common response isn't attack, it's retreat. That biological hesitation is the foundation. But it's not the whole story, because hesitation alone wouldn't be enough to explain how consistently ancient humans survived the night. The next piece is something we controlled directly: fire. Just provide warmth. For a nocturnal hunter, firelight does something specific and measurable. It disrupts night vision. Predators that rely on low light vision to track and ambush prey lose a real tactical advantage the moment they're forced to look at or move near an open flame. That's not superstition, it's optics. A lion or leopard approaching a firelit camp isn't just facing an unfamiliar shape anymore. It's facing an unfamiliar shape it can barely see clearly, in a spot that temporarily blinds the exact sense it depends on most. Combine that with smoke, unfamiliar scent, and unpredictable movement of flame and shadow, and you get an environment that active predators, even hungry ones, statistically tend to avoid rather than test. Then there's the group itself, which turns out to matter almost as much as the fire. Evolutionary biologists have a concept called the many eyes effect, the idea that as group size increases, the odds that at least one member is alert, shifting, coughing, or half waking at any given moment go up sharply, even if every individual is technically asleep. A predator watching a cluster of 10 or 15 bodies isn't looking at 10 or 15 easy targets. It's looking at a system that statistically is never fully unconscious. Someone always stirs. And that unpredictability, not knowing which body might sit up or make noise or trigger a chain reaction of alarm through the whole group, raises the perceived risk of approaching high enough that most nights, it simply isn't worth it. This is exactly why the cases where predators did successfully attack and kill sleeping humans are so consistent and so revealing. Long-term studies of modern predator attacks, including well-documented cases of lions preying on humans in parts of East Africa, show a clear pattern. The victims are almost never healthy adults sleeping inside a group, near fire, with normal group vigilance intact. They're overwhelmingly the isolated, someone sleeping alone, away from the fire, often already weakened by illness, age, or injury. The exception doesn't disprove the rule, it confirms it. Predators weren't attacking humans. They were attacking the rare cases where every layer of protection, fire, group, alertness happened to fail at once. Put those two things together, an animal biologically wired to hesitate at unfamiliar shapes, and a species that had independently discovered how to remove night vision from the equation and multiply its effective vigilance through group sleeping. And you get something remarkable. Not a fortress, not a weapon, just a quiet, mostly invisible system of layered protection that worked well enough, often enough, across hundreds of thousands of nights for an otherwise slow, clawless, fangless primate to survive being one of the most exposed sleepers on the entire planet. So the next time you think about how vulnerable your ancestors must have been, lying on open ground, no walls, no locks, nothing but a small fire and the people next to them, remember that the story isn't really about how lucky they were. It's about how, night after night, something walked up to the edge of that firelight, looked at the shapes lying there, ran the calculation, and decided to walk away. You're not just descended from people who survived predators. You're descended specifically from the ones predators decided over and over again weren't worth the risk.